press play. Once again, tick, 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 85 minutes, yay! PG rated. Fantasy romance. Some would call it science fiction. I'll just go with fantasy. Concerns a couple of young people. They meet, they fall in love, before their happily ever after is struck by a boulder, figuratively. Now, for some time, Chloe, played by Lyrica Acano, that's an unusual name, isn't it? Lyrica. She's been keen to set up her best friend Laura, played by Clara Rugard, with her stepbrother, whose name is Harrison, played by Lewis Pullman. He works in a record store in Hawaii. Not just any record store, one where it's a bit nostalgic. This is set in Hawaii, even though I'm not sure where it was filmed, but this record store is called Lost and Found, and it's run by Cooper. Danny Glover plays that role. So when Laura and Harrison finally do meet face-to-face at that record store, Lost and Found, their attraction is instant. And in no time, they're inseparable. She's a talented artist. He is looking to pursue medicine. They bond over music, and he teaches her how to surf. And one of the interesting and noteworthy aspects of the record store, and I actually like this a lot, is that there's a wall of pre-owned mixtapes. So as their relationship deepens, Harrison and Laura start recording their own mixtape. And then everything stops. I've deliberately tried to avoid the obvious, naming the obvious here. However, magically, most unexpectedly, Laura gets a second chance when their mixtape transports her back into his arms. Mind you, making that permanent is a particularly difficult proposition. I have no doubt that Press Play is targeting a young female audience. And it's fanciful, it's contrived, it's pleasant fluff. But if only miracles of this sort actually did come true. What do you reckon? You haven't seen it, Greg, have you?
No.
Okay, so I'm not going to ask you first. I will ask you, Jacqui, and I reckon you're going to have no love for this particular movie. But I mean, wouldn't it be nice if a miracle like what is shown within Press Play could become truth?
There are different fantasies than this, Alex, if you're classifying this as a fantasy. Look, being young and female myself, obviously I'm the target.
Sorry, sorry, I'm sorry. That was misspoken, I gather, but there we go, yes.
I'm closer than you are anyway, at least I got
that's true, very good, touche. Or touchy, yeah.
Oh, what a load of drivel this film is, honestly. I didn't even get it. And it is talking about, entering different...
curmudgeonly, that's the reason, isn't it? Come on.
I'm quite cheerfully curmudgeonly. Look, if I can believe in what was going on in Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is like crazy times and places, but I can't believe in this, it's not my fault, it's the film's fault, right? It just
not necessarily. Work. No, that you can't make that assumption.
Okay, all right. I'll say that not as a question, but as a statement. Okay. It is the film's fault. It was just like cheap, and it didn't work, and it didn't make sense, and I didn't believe in it. I have to believe in it, and the characters were just so boringly.
There were
ordinary. There was no depth of character, one-dimensional.
Wait a moment. The characters were beautiful. This is a beautiful setting in a beautiful surrounds with beautiful people. I mean, there's something to be said for that. The plastic nature of the world. That's the truth, isn't it? That's the generation that we're supposedly living with, where 15 seconds of fame on a reality program is what it's about, and having plastic whatever all over you. Isn't that?
Oh, well, if that's what you like and you want to watch, Alex, that's fine. Hang on. Certainly isn't my.
Wait a second. No. I'm genuinely pulling you up on this. I understand that it's not the greatest movie made yet, and there's also technical issues where you've got a microphone showing on.
Wasn't that funny?
Times. Oh, it's just ridiculous. So unprofessional.
And not only that, but the website she was looking at the time was on the screen actually had spelling errors right through it.
Yes.
I mean, don't you think you'd even get something like that right?
Well,
Anyway.
Hang on, the point that I was making here is,
Yes,
you are not the target audience. With due respect, you look magnificent, you're a fantastic person, and, you feel like you're 25. All of that's great, but you're not the target audience. So if you put yourself in the position of a target audience, those people who like to send out tweets and those people who go to YouTube and all the other social media, and it's all about how they look and the money they spend on beautifying themselves, don't you think that this could resonate with that audience?
well, possibly a shallow audience, if they're shallow, yes, but certainly not just you. I mean, I think you're generalising to say people who like to tweet and are young and female would like it.
But I'm trying to give you the example that the world in which we live is all about 140 characters or less. It's about the now generation.
Well, for some people it might be, but not.
Okay, for some.
It's not the whole world.
No, but you don't think this has got an audience? A movie like this?
Yeah, absolutely. It might have an audience, but that doesn't mean I have to say that it's a good film at all.
No.
And I'm giving my opinion of the film.
Oh, look, and I respect that very much. I just, at times, one of the things is that we can sort of say it's a bad film and, don't see it. I just think when we're not the target audience, we've got to put yourself into the mind's eye of what could be a target audience and what they may appreciate or get out of something as well. That's all I'm suggesting. And
when there are so many choices in films that you could be seeing, this is not one I would say to go and see.
Well, it is interesting because this week, Dave, one of the things that happened was that the latest film by Tom Cruise, which is 37 years in the making in terms of a sequel, has become the third highest grossing Australian movie of all time. And per capita, Top Gun Maverick, we spend more money as Australians seeing this movie than any other country on earth. And the reason I'm mentioning that when we're talking about press play and its target audience is that it's not only one of the first movies I'd go out and see, but it's one of the first movies my kids would go out and see, and both of us could appreciate it just as much. So that does speak volumes, doesn't it?
It does, and I think also people may have a personal connection to this film. I found I did. I lost a partner, and one of the only things I have left of her is our mixtape. And so I think there's a really personal connection with this film. I also worked in a record store when I was younger as well, but I found the key to this film working, I think, is that you need to have that personal connection. Like you said, there's a lot of errors in this film, and I laughed as well when I saw the boom mic appear in shots. But I think a lot of people also need to remember this is indie cinema. This is a film that we wouldn't normally see being released in cinemas. It's a film that would normally go to a streaming platform or to DVD, but at the moment, because of the COVID situation that we've still got with not very many films coming through, apart from big blockbusters, cinemas are scrambling to try and get films like this. So, yeah, I did find a little bit of a personal connection to this film, but I could also see why some people wouldn't like the film. But I love the fact that they went with all indie bands. They didn't go with big known bands and things like that. And I think, yeah, you have to have a personal connection, because I'm also someone who remembers moments through songs. When people ask me about the night that my grandmother died in hospital, I can't tell them any of the conversations that were had at the hospital, but I can remember the songs that I was listening to on my Walkman while we were waiting for doctors and things like that. So I think this is a film that some people, if you're a really big music lover and you do connect with music that way, will go and watch. I'm still not saying it's a great film, but yeah, I did find a personal connection to it.
And the Walkman, that's the era that we're talking about. Look, the best way to enjoy this sort of movie, if you're not even in the target audience and you don't have that connection, just go with the flow. Let it wash over you. Yeah, I am asking you to suspend belief. The detail in the storyline, I've got to say, by James Batchelor and Greg Borkman, who also directs, the detail is convoluted. Even if the intent, well, that's never in doubt. I warmed to some of the straightforward characterizations, even if the narrative, to me, really seemed manufactured. It really was sort of ticking boxes in some respect. I thought that Clara Rugard brought her character's driven persona to the fore. She's passionate, she's insistent, and her facial expressions actually added weight to her performance. As her beau, Lewis Pullman, he's got a bit of an easygoing charm about him, and that's fine. And then there's a playfulness about Lyrica Akano's characterisation of Laura's best friend forever. Jacqui, you and I disagree with this. I wasn't quite as sold on Danny Glover's portrayal of the ageing record store proprietor. I mean, he added life experience, but I just found it a little bit, even though it was meant to be nice and casual, I just thought that was even more manufactured than some of the others.
I thought he just brought a little bit of weight to it, whereas the others were all frippery.
Yeah, well, I mean, look, the location as well is a cinematographer's paradise, isn't it? I mean, it's beautiful. Luca Del Pupo is the cinematographer. He doesn't let us down. What does let us down, as we've mentioned now 3 times, is the tip of that boom mic that you referenced, Dave. I mean, I understand it's indie, but I still... I mean, Jacqui and I were talking about this.
I can't understand why they wouldn't do something post-production to remove that.
Yeah. That's what you and I were talking about before. Dave, as somebody who's more involved in the technical side of it, obviously in a photograph you can whitewash or whatever what do you call it, change the photo. With video, can you not do that? Could you not take out the boom mic?
You can. It's difficult. Most of the time, though, the director would actually be watching rushes on set and spot that. I can't work out how that still happens. I mean, I know during COVID there was different rules and regulations, and I spoke to a director this week that said that he's not happy with the audio mix of his film that's about to come out because he couldn't go back and refilm with the actress because she'd come from France to New Zealand and had to go back home because of COVID, so he couldn't re-record. But I don't see any reason why, even shooting during COVID, the director couldn't have spotted that on the rushes and gone, hey guys, we need to go back and reshoot that.
And that's the point that I was making here. I'm now, it's a couple of days since I've seen it, but I think it was 4 times, Dave, that the boom mic. It was either 3 or 4.
Yeah.
So, I mean, like if you go through the rushes, you'd pick up at least some of them.
Yep.
Yeah, so I agree with that. So, I mean, look, I still say clearly there's an audience out there for those who choose to believe in the power of enduring love as portrayed by those in the prime of their lives. That's what this is about. I'm also not going to give it a high mark, but Jacqui, you're going to fail it. Dave, what about you? Let's start with you.
I'm going to give it 6 out of 10, and I'm nominating the boom mic for Best Supporting Actor for the Oscars.
Very good. I'm giving it a 5.5 to 6, so I'm in similar territory. This is press play, PG, 85 minutes. Now, before Jacqui gives her score, what do you reckon she's going to give, Dave? I'll give my prognostication too.
I'm going to go with 4 out of 10.
Oh, no, she won't be that generous. I'll go with a 2 or 3. I'll say 2. Go on, Jacqui.
Well, you're both wrong, because it is, in fact, a 3. But can I also mention, I was just having a look while we were talking about the scores, and our good friends on the IMDb website, IMDb website, have ended up giving Press Play, that we've just spoken about, the same score as The Forgiven, 5.8.
Oh, my golly.
Can you believe that?
No.
Can you believe that?
This is a Peter trick. That's what he would do. No, Peter, we miss you.
That's
well, you haven't between you haven't sold the film to me, and I haven't seen it yet.
No. Well, Greg, I don't think you're going to particularly love it either. But I mean, the thing is that the contrast between the other 2 films we've spoken about and this one and the next one is about as sharp as I can remember in a week, right? So, when you see a couple of quality productions, then you see something that isn't quite as good, it just stands out for the wrong reasons, doesn't it? So that's what it's about. Jay,